Must have been in the late 60s, early 70s when we first got a television.
I can still remember very vividly sitting in front of the TV.
You know, I could be glued on a rainy Saturday.
I was just a kid.
And they weren't regular programs, but they were specials.
Growing up in the Midwest, it was really my first chance to fall under the wonder of the ocean.
Those crazy silver suits.
Crazy divers dressed up in crazy outfits.
With the helmets that had lights on them.
His sort of soft French accent.
Long fins, diving.
Wanting to travel and see all these places.
You're really on a scientific voyage with these guys.
Grabbing onto some sort of little underwater jet ski.
Chasing sharks and orcas and things.
It's just something that I think everyone should at least check out once or twice in their life, for sure.
I remember his voice. He was an amazing storyteller. They were in Papua New Guinea, and they were around a man who was a shark hypnotizer. And he had an outrigger canoe, and he had a big rattle. And he rattled in the water, and sharks would come up. And this guy had just a lasso, and he'd lasso these sharks and pull them on board his outrigger. And at one time he got about a 11-foot, it wasn't a lemon shark, it might have been a gray shark, and pulled it up on board the boat and was wrestling and all that. And there were orca in the area, circling the area, checking out what was going on. And the way that Cousteau and those folks played it is that the orca said, well, if you can grab an 11-foot shark, watch us. And they showed a film of the orcas going deep down into the reef and both coming up with about 14, 15-foot long lemon sharks and parading around the boat with these sharks that they got much more easily than the poor fisherman with the rattle. So that was an exciting time.
When my father put a tank on my back at the age of 7, pushed me overboard, I became a scuba diver. My brother was there, and I was absolutely fascinated by the amount of fish. And as time went on, I saw the fish disappear and the amount of garbage increasing. And that infuriated me as a child. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today. We know nothing about the ocean today. We may have explored 5% at the most, and there are thousands and thousands of species that have yet to be discovered. My father was a naval officer, and being at sea, wanted to see what was under the keel of his ship. And that's that sense of curiosity and discovery, adventure, made him start to put his head underwater with homemade masks, and ultimately learn to free dive and wanting to stay down there. And they say, well, Captain, what do you expect to find? And he would say, if I knew, I wouldn't go. Well, when you're dealing with a contract, it makes it very, very difficult. So this sense of adventure, wanting to see what's out there, was, I think, what drove him all his life, and made him create equipment, made him show things nobody has ever seen at the time. And it was his strength, I think, curiosity, sense of adventure.
Pretty much the pioneer. I think his legacy was basically that he was the springboard for opening people's eyes, the common people's eyes, to the beauty of what goes on in our oceans, usually out of sight.
His scuba apparatus unlocked, the ocean in ways that people really had never been able to study it. Like instead of going out and just doing sampling from the surface, they were now able to go underwater and collect more in-depth data, do surveys, and bring up animals that nobody had seen before.
The innovation that he brought to technology to be able to go underwater with the aqualung and then with scuba gear later on, And I remember Jacques Cousteau being the person who opened the door so that people could see the ocean below the surface of the ocean and really relate to and understand and get excited about the ocean.
When I started learning about what he's done to advance the ability to scuba dive, it really brought open a whole new realm of how I could become a diver myself and spend more time underwater.
Jacques Cousteau will always be the man that started a revolution, really, when it comes to ocean and marine science.
You could argue somebody else may have come up with it later on, but he is the guy that brought it to us. He is the one that brought this world to life for so many people.
Before he started his explorations and innovations, people thought of the ocean as just a flat blue surface without understanding its contribution to supporting life on Earth. Jacques Cousteau really opened that door.
Through his images and his stories and his tales and even his books, he really helped people understand that this is beautiful, but even in his lifetime, he noticed it starting to slip away.
He documented the Mediterranean and its downfall through pollution and human exploitation. He was able to show how degraded that environment became.
Right, he is the best there ever was, in my opinion, about presenting the science, the issues of the ocean in an artistic way. And I think people have yet to touch him at all. He's on a different plane in reaching people and inspiring them about ocean issues.
He had a real passion about it, and that passion was reflected in his work, and it was reflected in his sense of adventure, and it was reflected in the product that he gave the people.
He inspired you to go out there because it was so beautiful, but he also inspired you to think about, what could you do in your life to help overcome problems in the ocean and to treat resources and better than what we were doing.
I think it spurred a lot of people to move into setting marine protected areas or fighting plastic pollution or doing different things to help save this magical habitat that they wouldn't have known about if his work wasn't so strong and so beautiful.
He has passed on a message, and that message is for everybody, and it's to literally understand that we're living on a planet we're very, very privileged to have what the planet is offering, and we need to manage it.
There's a whole generation of kids my age that grew up wanting to be marine biologists.
From age 8 on, as a little kid up, I wanted to be a marine scientist.
Well, I was an Eagle Scout, and I was a budding conservationist, and understanding the importance of water on this planet really resonated with me.
By the time I was 13, I'd built an underwater camera housing.
As soon as I saw that show, I wanted to be a marine biologist and I wanted to scuba dive.
I remember being inspired to become an adventurer.
Jacques Cousteau had a career traveling around the world diving. Nothing cooler than that.
I think it was the first time I thought about what I wanted to do for a living.
I wasn't satisfied just with watching what he was presenting to us. I wanted to be there too.
His shows were definitely something that led me to want to learn more.
I think he was a tremendous force.
I found it really fascinating, and it compelled me to want to become an ocean conservationist myself.
What I've learned from him is to really enjoy and fall in love with nature, and his words, people protect what they love. And if we can pass that on, hey, maybe we'll be able to look at our great-grandchildren in the eyes and say, I've done everything I could to help you.